Personal information, okay, PII. So personal information gets down to things such as, names, addresses, phone numbers, social security numbers, some of those other things. So when you start to send this around. So again, I talked about social security number. Let me ask this one. How many of you in your email system, if you try to email a credit card number, does it flag your email? I know ours does. Can't send any through our system. Okay? That's another thing that you might want to look at if you're working with IT from an email perspective, is that should be flagged. You should not be able to send a credit card through email, okay, from that perspective. That's different than being online and entering it online. I'm talking about emailing a credit card number. Should not be accessible, okay? So again, the key information, name, address, phone number, social security number, photos, videos of a person, okay? Controlling some of that as well. So this hits almost everybody from one degree or another, because when you go and you interview and hire personnel, you're gathering all of that information. From an HR perspective, you're required to store a lot of that information. So from that area, you need to make sure that you're really protecting that personal information of those people that are your employees, and potentially your customers, and potentially partners you work with, and potentially suppliers you purchase from, right? That information could be in any of those types of places. Okay, media storage. This comes around to the facility. Do you have a proper area for media storage, okay? Which could be paper. Do any of you still have paper that's in a room, similar data center? They used to have print centers, or you're storing paper? I know in a lot of government facilities, they still have paper stored in data centers. A lot of universities, a lot of other places, right? Because it's the safest place to store things. As well as not necessarily in the data center, I should clarify. They're usually compartmentalized off because you don't want the dust and things from the paper in the facility, but a very similar type thing, right? And then protection at rest. Again, I talked a little bit about this. What type of information do you have? And does that mean if I'm backing up data, is it encrypted on the backup data as well? Okay? And then is that in a compartmentalized place within the data center so that if we have a fire over here, and this is compartmentalized and protected over here, we don't damage the redundant data. Or it's in a secondary data center facility, okay? But it's at some point in time or some place in time where you can recover this information if needed and show that it's protected. From the IT side or operations, again, it comes kind of back to, it's similar to what we just talked about a little bit earlier on the PCI data, but it's more on, is it kept separate and encrypted within your own information within the environment itself, okay? And you need to be monitoring this, by the way. That's one of the things when you do a test. Monitor and see if anybody is accessing that data. So a common test is go try and send somebody's social security number through email. Go try and send a credit card through email. See if it'll go, if it works, if somebody can send you one. If it does, that should be a red flag to you right there, if those things are happening. That's a simple way you can start to test within your own environment. Lots of requirements here. These are kind of the high-level areas related to personal information. This one is actually much simpler than the IRS side or the credit card side because it's really handling basic information from an HR perspective within the organization in most cases. But any identification of those that you have of those people. Do you take a photocopy of someone's driver's license? I've seen a lot of people do that. Do you scan someone's driver's license for access? Okay, it falls in this category. Somebody's going to come into the data center and you scan it. I've seen that happen. And then they hand you a sticker as a visitor to go in the data center and they hold on to your driver's license. But it's in that machine until the next time you come in again, right? Right there. That's one of the top things. You need to handle that data appropriately. So as a facilities person, if you're in charge of security and they're scanning driver's license, you want to make sure that that data is going to the right place and being handled correctly within your organization. Because that would probably fall under us as facilities people from that. Okay. Monitoring, video monitoring, other monitoring of the facility is a big one. So you can see who's had access, who's not having access, when they have access, those other areas around that.